But there are many things behind the scenes. We recently reported on government advisor Elon Musk exploiting his role to promote the crypto he owns. What you're looking at is part of our coverage on that previously. He named his government group after his cryptocurrency coin, which is named after a dog, which is why you see that image on screen when we reported on it, which is really no different than trying to rename a government department after Coke or Tesla. I mention that because now Musk's taxpayer-funded .gov website for his Trump policy group promotes the same crypto coin. Again, you see a different version of that dog. So day one, Donald Trump's chosen advisor, Elon Musk, is taking your taxpayer dollars and promoting his crypto businesses, stuff that he owns. He owns some of that. And the product, which is a crypto coin with this dog here, has nothing to do with cutting government spending or anything related. He's not even pretending. It's just a blatant grift. And we documented that then. Trump is clearly now echoing this approach. He's just launched a new digital currency, which may show where some of his focus has been, even as he begins the big job of president. And this is a big deal. This is not just some sort of side concern or like selling, T-shirts and merchandise. We are in kind of the Trump honeymoon period here. We are on, the first full day, and yet the conservative Murdoch-owned Wall Street Journal already blowing the whistle, noting Trump benefits directly from the sale of these new crypto tokens, while setting the very federal policies that affect how these crypto markets are valued and regulated. So for a financial publication and its readers in Wall Street, that's an obvious conflict of interest, even if you like other policies of the incoming president. As for Donald Trump, before I tell you more about this coin and how it affects you and how they're using taxpayer dollars to line their own pockets, remember, Donald Trump has been a longtime critic of these digital currency operations. He's dubbed them scams.
Bitcoin, it just seems like a scam. I don't like it because it's another currency competing against the dollar. Potentially a disaster waiting to happen. They may be fake. Who knows what they are? I'm a big fan of the dollar. I'm a big fan of our currency, and I don't want to have other currencies coming out and hurting or demeaning the dollar.
I think it's a very dangerous thing.
Again, quoting Donald Trump, it's dangerous, it's a scam, and it hurts or competes with the United States dollar. On that last point, there are many people involved with traditional currency in the U.S. Treasury who agree with that concern. And now he's president, where he's supposed to be focused on helping you, the country, as he said in the address yesterday, and, of course, the United States Treasury and the dollar. And yet he has just launched, coming into this weekend, this unregulated Trump digital coin. It is his own cryptocurrency. They're selling it as kind of the official one, although there's more than one Trump-related coin. I can get to that. This is a cryptocurrency product that people can buy and sell. And again, if you buy at one price and sell at another, a lot of the money, the value is coming from people investing in this, whether they're Trump fans or people who want to curry favor with them, with him and his team. And people could lose a lot of money on this as well. It's a big story.
The profit president, Donald Trump, cashes in on his own crypto coin.
Trump profiting from all these schemes in office, from the Middle East apartment towers to the trash coin Ponzi-like schemes that he's launching.
I literally bought $1 million worth of Trump like 30 minutes ago. We're already up $195,000.
The coin reached $9 billion in market value over the weekend, but faces scrutiny over a lack of investor transparency.
Trump launching his very own meme coin wasn't crazy enough. 4 hours ago, Melania Trump just did the same.
Listen, it'll go up and it'll go down, but also it is a central clearing station for bribery.
The Trump coin is worth $38 with a valuation of about $7 billion today. That is essentially cut in half from yesterday's peak $75 and $14 billion valuation. Volatile and risky.
Very volatile. It is illegal for politicians to take too much money in campaign contributions or to ever take direct gifts in exchange for what they do in office. You heard a former Trump aide there refer to the risk of bribery. When you look at the price, Trump dropped the coin Friday. It went up very high to 75. It's now dropped to 41. At one point, Trump's crypto holdings were roughly maybe up to 89% of his net worth, although it's hard to get exact figures from him on that. Trump was also asked about this currency. Take a listen.
Well, I don't know if it benefited. I don't know where it is. I don't know much about it other than I launched it. I heard it was very successful. I haven't checked it. Where is it today?
You made a lot of money, sir.
How much?
Several $1 billion, it seems like, in the last several days.
Several billion? That's peanuts for these guys.
That's Donald Trump. You'll notice someone who often takes a lot of credit for a lot of things, including business activities. You're getting a different answer there. He sounds like he doesn't want to get into it. He wants to joke it off. He wants to minimize it. He's not read in. But when you read his books and you listen to his past interviews and other witness testimony, he's been very involved in even smaller transactions than that. I mean, he signs his own checks at the tune of $50,000 and $100,000, which many billionaires don't. So that's his current answer in defense, kind of pretending or saying that he's not involved that much, doesn't know what's going on. But Trump also oversees the entire federal regulatory system, which regulates, investigates, and even prosecutes misconduct in these areas, which include cyber and digital currency. Note that Trump's company says this new coin is not intended to be an investment opportunity. Mark Cuban, who has generally been receptive to the prospect of crypto in some forms being positive, says this one is a matter of time until people lose money. This is not crypto any more than Madoff was buying and selling shares of stock. He's alleging that basically this is far from the benefits of possible independent international crypto and is much more like a Ponzi scheme. That's Cuban's view. Now, by the 2024 campaign, Donald Trump had shifted from what I showed you before. He went from saying crypto was a, quote, scam to promising to be the crypto president and the U.S. would become the crypto capital of the planet. And so the question here is not what is the perfect crypto policy, which you would want your government to figure out to defend you, because we've seen a lot of financial malfeasance out there. Everyone remembers the mortgage-induced crash of 2009, which affected a heck of a lot of people who had nothing to do with those initial investments. But that's not even where we are. Tonight we have to ask, as Elon Musk and Donald Trump launch personal products related to their government power to enrich themselves, whether huge federal policies that affect you and your livelihood could be completely rewritten or thrown out the window to benefit the private interests of some people who are already very, very rich.